Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in, and I appreciate everyone who is listening. 4th episode of my podcast, and today me and my good friend out in New York City are going to be talking about how to build a better relationship with food, because this day and age, the food industry has kind of brainwashed us, and a lot of people, including myself, in the past, just basically hooked on processed foods and refined sugars and different types of sweeteners and basically chemicals which could be most likely be detrimental to your health, both in the long run and in the short term as well. So eating whole organic foods, not necessarily organic, just eating whole foods. I mean, for the most part organic, just getting plenty of veg in and putting the right fuel into your body is something over the last few years I've really managed to hone in on. And so is my good friend Andrew Bond out in New York. So myself, I know I explained on the last podcast, but myself and Andrew have known each other for about 6 years, and we're both good friends we're both from the same part of the UK, both from Wales, and he now lives out in New York. He's a personal trainer and fitness model, and his knowledge is really sharp nowadays due to actually applying himself and learning and evolving both as a trainer and as a nutrition guru, and the same as myself. So yeah, so we're good friends, and I thought I'd bring him in on the podcast because we've both been in a place where we're both had a bad relationship with food, and we've both come out the other side now where we've made health a priority, and aesthetically over aesthetics any day, mate. I don't know about that. I still like to look at my abs in the mirror. I don't know about you.
Definitely do that daily, but I'm getting a little better at it.
How many times, mate? Is it dropped down from 56 times or?
Yeah, mate. It's definitely like putting the health first, mate. I'm doing less and less and getting better results, if I'm honest. So it's just becoming easier.
Definitely.
It really is over time. I just found a quote yesterday on a podcast. I've forgotten what podcast it was, but you'll probably relate to this. They said that you have a body you love and a life that you hate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can. Yeah, 100%. And that's the way we like. What I heard on the podcast recently as well. It's like we should train because we love ourselves. Not because we don't love ourselves, essentially. I don't know if that was the exact words.
Yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Because, I mean, as you know, a lot of people come to you as a personal trainer, and for the most part, they're coming to you because they're insecure about something, and they don't like the way something looks on their body, or there's something they don't like about their physique, and they want to improve on that, which, it's kind of the day and age we live in nowadays. But when you can get to a point where you make health a priority and you're connected to your body and in tune with your body in terms of listening to the signals and knowing, kind of what your body needs, is a great place to be, isn't it, Drew? I mean, because we've both come a long way over the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, as we touched upon on the last podcast, we talked about binging, and I have clients who do that all weekend, and then they want to push like a high intensity workout with me the following week because they've had an awful weekend of eating. I'm not actually willing to do that. I'm trying to give them other options to get themselves in better shape and to get themselves healthy. So whether it be, restricting, not restricting, but fasting or strength training over high intensity, because you can't out-train a poor diet.
Exactly. And what's that doing to the body? That's just applying more stress to the body after you've just stressed it out all weekend, for example, by binge eating and putting processed crappy foods into your body, which, by the way, folks, it's no joke. I mean, I've really started taking it seriously now because I've just educated myself more. And, I mean, the stuff, if you go into a superstore, for example, I mean, you'll walk into a superstore, supermarket, anywhere, especially in westernized countries, you'll walk in there, and the majority of those aisles are just jam-packed with stuff which is coming out of packets, coming out of tins, coming out of boxes of cereal. I mean, none of this stuff is whole. I mean, none of it is designed to be in the body. It's all processed. It contains refined sugar combined with bad types of fat, which they link into all different types of serious chronic conditions now. Heart disease, diabetes, the list goes on and on. So it's no joke, folks. I mean, when you walk into a store, I mean, there's the tiny section where you see the fruit and veg, and you see the stuff which is not in packets, which most of the time is the stuff you want to be kind of veering towards, right, Drew?
Yeah, like these processed foods are definitely elevating our taste buds, like in poor ways. Since I've kind of restricted supplements like sweeteners and supplements and started eating a lot more fruit and vegetables, the taste of but you might not believe this, but the taste of like peppers or strawberries or blueberries is off the scale.
Yeah, the taste buds are heightened for sure. Yeah, I can totally agree with that. I mean, even when I have like I'll throw something in different, like you said, I'll throw in some red peppers, or even like, say for example, some raspberries or some berries. I mean, it definitely must do something to the body, because the body obviously adapts to having foods which are more wholesome, and you're not having as much refined sugar. And because let's face it, this is what I was trying to get at with the food industry. I mean, they're designing foods for the most part not given a blind, not given a blind, basically not caring at all about health and nutrition. More just making it palatable and making them taste good. And in order to do that, they're engineering these foods just to taste good, and they're just packing and mixing them full of different chemicals to get us hooked. I mean, if you ask me, it's no different to most drugs out there. They're getting people hooked on sugar and processed foods, and then we become less sensitive then, and then eating stuff like veg to people like that. To people like myself a few years ago, most veg and good foods I didn't actually enjoy eating. Now I've got myself to a place. Yeah, got myself to a place now where that's it. I've got myself to a place now.
Making delicious foods. Like I don't know about you, but I'm super passionate about like getting the message across to people about how I eat now. I often hear the quote like, "Oh, I can never eat like you," but really, it's not painful. It's like I really enjoy like vegetables in the oven, roasted veg, adding different ingredients to it, coming up with new meal plan.
That's it.
But sometimes I find myself holding myself back because I know that it's taken me a long process to get there, and it may take someone else, clients or anyone who's listening to this podcast, it may take time to get to that point. But when you do truly get to this point, you're going to feel like a hell of a lot better mentally and physically, and you're going to look better for it, I promise you.
Oh, for sure, yeah, exactly. Another thing I wanted to bring up is like tracking your calories. I mean, this for sure has transformed my relationship with food, because simply there's a really good app. There's numerous apps you can use now, but there's a really good app you can use on any smartphone called MyFitnessPal. And that's the one I tend to use, and I think Andrew uses it as well. And it just makes you mindful of what you put into your body, because you can have a look at, it tells you, it breaks down exactly what kind of sugars and what kind of fat you've had, and just more than anything, how many calories you're having. And most people I get to track are normally blown away by the amount of sugar and bad foods they're kind of putting in. I mean, it's not a bad thing to be mindful of what's going in, but it is a good thing for you to know where you're at, and to basically learn about your body just by tracking your calories. I think is an important thing,
Yeah, with tracking, like I find it definitely a useful tool, but don't then let that become unhealthy as well. And don't try and hit those macros spot on, or don't try and get it to the T each day. You know what I mean? So if you do have a day where there's higher calories one day, it doesn't matter. Don't beat yourself up over it. Get back to eating well the next day. You're going to be fine.
Sure.
Don't get too stringent on the tracking. Don't become too obsessive over that, because you can go from one extreme to the other there.
Exactly. Yeah, you can replace one eating disorder or one bad relationship with food, and then progress onto something else. If you get obsessed with it and you're just using it maybe as a tool just to lose body fat, or just primarily for how you look. If you're going into it, do it primarily for, okay, I want to feel good, I want to know what's going in, and it just gives you a rough idea. None of it's spot on anyway. A lot of it is estimated, but it just gives you a rough idea, and it just gives you a benchmark to work with, really. So that's another option for you. But
still, if you like, a healthy relationship with food is when you're eating to nourish your body. And like, if you do have a bad day, don't have that overwhelming sense of guilt with that. You know what I mean? We all have bad days, including me and Martin, but now we're not going to feel guilty over it, and we're not going to punish ourselves the next day. We know what we need to do to get back on track.
That's it.
Over the next.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And when it comes to feeling good and nutrient-dense foods, I mean, I can't stress to you, and Andrew will back me up on this, how important vegetables are for the body. I mean, some fruit as well, but a diet which is rich in a variety of different vegetables, primarily organic for certain types of vegetables, but let's just say forget about that side of it now. Just get your vegetables in. Just try and increase the amount of vegetables you have. Don't do anything. You don't have to break any records. You don't have to go to having copious amounts every day. But if you can get to a point where you're just, okay, I'm going to be mindful, and every day I'm going to try and have some more veg. That is a game changer. What's your thoughts on that, mate?
It's a good start as well, mate. Making those small habitual changes is obviously going to help you in the long term as well. But also with the vegetables, you'll find that if you're eating them first during a meal, you're going to be full. So you start eating the meal with vegetables, you have an adequate amount of protein and some good fats, and you're less likely to overeat and binge on those carbohydrates then.
Exactly, because you're having numerous different types of fiber as well, which is gonna it's gonna give you sustained energy, and not to mention all the chemical compounds you find in vegetables, which they're linking to all sorts of great health benefits. So it's just something simple. It's something everyone knows, but it's a tough one. Like you said, it's a long road to kind of get out of that habit of eating stuff which comes out of package, because we're kind of brainwashed a bit. And another thing I wanted to get Andrew's insight on is fats, healthy fats. I mean, and different types of fats, even a certain amount of saturated fat, and even a bit of cholesterol. I mean, it's essential for the body. So just kind of reducing the amount of carbs you eat and exploring more with the healthy fats, such as nuts, avocado, oily fish like salmon, mackerel, tuna, herring, any kind of oily fish like that. Even some, if you're not a vegetarian, this is, by the way, like good quality meat, like grass-fed meat, different types of oil, olive oil, coconut oil, which is, any type of coconut really is just contains something called medium chain fatty acids. So coconuts are really, really good, whether it's the oil or the yogurt, whatever it is. It's another good source of healthy fats. And just exploring the fats and having more veg as opposed to having bread, pasta, and refined sugar on a daily basis. If you can switch over, or at least kind of veer towards the veg and the fats a bit more, that is going to open you up and make you learn a bit more about your body as well, right, Drew?
Yeah, definitely for health and longevity in the long term, you can make a switch over to that. Obviously, what works best for you. If you don't like a lot of fat, then I wouldn't encourage you to do so. But for health reasons, then most definitely, mate. And you can also add some coconut products on top of that. I know you've experimented a little bit with like coconut yogurt, which is a delicious little snack, right? So mixing that with blueberries and coconut flakes, that'll work well for you. I also, myself, sometimes I'll throw in, like you mentioned cholesterol, I'll throw in days where my cholesterol spiked. And that helps with like strength gains in the gym.
For sure, yeah.
I've also done a week to 10 days of high cholesterol. Just for hormone levels and obviously strength gains, but I didn't do that too long, because if you do it over a long period of time, you will start getting aches in the joints. So just be aware of it.
Detrimental, yeah, for sure. It's like anything though, and anything you do too much of, you just gotta. It's like fasting. You fast too much, it could be unhealthy if you do it all the time vigorously. Like we brushed over on the last episode, but. Yeah, like when it comes to cholesterol as well and saturated fat, I mean that's another myth and something which we've been kind of let's just say lied to about, really. I mean, over the years we've been told that sugar was okay, and having a high carbohydrate kind of diet was good as long as you have low fat. Everything has to be low fat, and saturated fat is bad. It's killing you. It gives you heart disease. Most of this is just so inconclusive, and basically it's just not correct information. So. Having a small amount of saturated, having eggs, for example, which contain cholesterol and saturated fat. If you can get organic eggs, that's more ideal. And meats which contain saturated fat and cholesterol, like let's just say different types of steak which come from a cow. If you can get grass fed, it's better. But these like cholesterol has its place for health benefits as well. I mean, cholesterol can help fight infection, helps transport nutrients around the body. And fatty acids, so it's actually an essential nutrient to have, so these things, and saturated fat, so you need to have a certain amount of saturated fat in your diet, because these two things I just mentioned, saturated fat and cholesterol, are actually important for hormone production as well. So it's the studies they've done, they haven't actually gone into detail and told us that the people they've actually got these, the way they've got these stats is by most of the time people who are not healthy people. They sometimes have a sedentary lifestyle. They're mixing the refined sugar. Yeah, they drink, and they're mixing the refined sugar with the fat on a regular basis. And no shit, that's going to be bad for your health. But it's not the saturated fat and cholesterol alone which causes problems. So ignore that shit, I'd say.
Yeah, people might say as well. Obviously, you're talking about different food choices. Like people say, eat everything in moderation, which is good, but when you have an unhealthy relationship with food, chances are there's an underlying issue. So it's not just about eating. Yeah. It's about, it could be a psychological issue. It could be stressful work.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a relationship with your partner, or you're not in a relationship, or you're trying to fill a void in your life. That's why you are prone to eating and binging, or and overdoing it with certain foods. Yep. You may have to take a look and come from a more psychological aspect and fix that first before then going into fixing your diet.
Absolutely, yeah. That's it. It's getting to the underlying issues for sure. And I mean, let's just face it, like a healthy diet, is going to consist of what we evolved eating, which is primarily vegetables, some fruit, and a decent amount of animal proteins. Because as you mentioned in the last episode, I mean, you're going to get a lot of nutrients from the fats and what you find from certain animals, providing you know where the animals come from, and it's a good source. But yeah, a diet should be primarily veg. So we can't stress enough. Me and Andrew, Andrew and myself, shall I say, over the last few years have definitely massively increased the amount of veg we have on a daily basis, and it's made a big difference. Like satiety, for example, you have a big plate of veg with each meal, and you're going to have more sustained energy. You're going to be fuller for longer. You're not going to have as much cravings. So that's something simple I wanted to drop in there. So yeah, plenty of veg, maybe some animal proteins, and a little bit of fruit. Yeah,
again, it doesn't only come from the food, right? Again, it's about other issues that all come together, really, like managing your stress. Again, we'll go into that, quality of sleep, moving well, training correctly, not going into high intensity all the time when you're stressed out, especially like in places like New York and Sydney, where people are working a lot of hours and then they feel they need to punish themselves with these crazy workouts. And like a poor relationship can stem from like the opposite. So staying up late, watching like a stimulating television show, reading a stimulating book.
That's definitely
nighttime, you know.
So that's a very common thing now as well. People, let's just mention things like CrossFit. Yeah, you like CrossFit, don't you, Josh? Yeah. Nah.
It's a CrossFit vegan, right?
But a lot of people nowadays want to go balls to wall, doing intense training and stressing their body on a daily basis by hammering themselves in the gym, and then what it's just doing to the metabolism. Then for the most of the time, it's just gonna. If anything, it's going to slow your metabolism down. If you go in hell for leather, you're not de-stressing by kind of counteracting some of that with maybe doing some yoga and focusing on stretching and getting your body to move well. And you're just going balls to wall all the time, and then your appetite's actually sometimes going to increase anyway because you're burning so many calories. But also you're sending your body the signals and your metabolism the signal to slow down, and that's a survival mechanism. So, you should really hone in on focus on moving well, focusing on stretching, mobility, maybe throwing some yoga in there, strength training, lifting weights properly, and just going for whole foods for the most part. And if you want having a crap meal here and there, I like to do. It's good for your mind, so that's not a bad thing. So just for the most part, just try and seek out the whole foods and eat less processed foods. Basically, it's pretty straightforward. What would you say, mate? What's your insight now to finish this one off?
Just remember that, like, when you eat poorly, you're gonna add more guilt, right? So guilt's associated with that, and that's gonna stress you out. And then likelihood is you're gonna eat poorly again because of the stress and the guilt. And it just becomes a vicious cycle. So just be extremely aware of that, and be aware that there's bigger psychological aspects to this. Sometimes if you find that you are doing all the right things, it's still not working, you might have to look a little deeper into that.
Exactly. So just look after your body. Drink plenty of water. Try and eat whole foods for the most part, and learn how to train properly. Get proper training programming, which you can get through me, by the way. Coming soon. Anyway, I just wanted to drop my socials. Go follow me on Instagram at Martin Silva Fitness. Check out my YouTube channel, Martin Silva Fitness, and don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and leave a 5-star review, preferably. And what's your Instagram, and?
You can follow me at Mr. Bond Fitness.
And what was your email again for the contacts?
MrBondFitness@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thanks for chiming in, and peace.
Thank you, mate.